I am a maths uni student as well as a private science and maths tutor, and today I'm going to be seeing how quickly I can do a GCSE Maths past paper so that you guys can revise more effectively. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. So starting off, question number 1, circle the point that lies on the curve y equals x squared minus 4x plus 1. So here, because all the x values are minus 1, if we just substitute minus 1 into this equation, we have minus 1 squared minus 4 lots of minus 1, add 1, you can see that gets us 1 plus 4 plus 1, which equals 6. So the fourth choice is our correct answer. The height of a tree is 12 metres, correct to the nearest metre, circle the error interval. All the numbers are the same, you just want to look at the inequalities here, because it can be 11.5, but it can't be 12.5. So it can't be equal to the 12.5 as well. 2a is 5 times bigger than b, circle the ratio a to b. So 2a equals 5 times greater than b, so a is going to be 5 over 2 times b. So the ratio of a to b is going to be 5 to 2 because a is 2.5 times the size of b. Which of these represents the shaded region? That is just a intersection b or a NB. Using a ruler and compasses, show the region inside the grid that is less than 4 centimeters from a. Now I can't really do this digitally, but what you would do is you'd find your compass and you'd set it up to be about 4 centimeters from A, and you draw a nice circle around there, and it's nearer to B than C. So what you want to do is you want to set up a line that is perpendicular to the imaginary line BC. So if you start with your compass at C down here, set it out to a certain distance, it doesn't really matter as long as it crosses the halfway point. You will get a cross here and a cross around here, another one there and another one there if you repeat that process with B. And if you do a straight line roughly between those two, with the values in the correct place obviously, it has to be within the circle of A, but closer to B than C, so it can't be on the bottom side of the line. Label the region R, so you would just do a big R like that. Beth drives 200 miles in 4 hours. She drives the first 18 miles at an average speed of 36. Work out her average speed for the rest of the journey. So speed equals distance over time, so we know that time is going to equal distance over speed, which is 18 over 36, which is equal to a half, so that's half an hour. So that means now, if we refer back to our speed equals distance over time, we want to work out the average speed, so we keep that as it is. If she's already driven 18 miles, then there's going to be 182 miles left. And it took 4 hours in total. If she's already done 30 minutes worth, it's going to be divide that by 3.5. And altogether that comes to 52 miles per hour. So we're shown some measurements. BC to CD is 1 to 2. So that's 1, that's 2. Which means this must be 16. Work out the area of the whole rectangle. We know the width of this shape is 8 plus 16, which makes 24. And we can use Pythagoras to work out AB. So if we do 17 squared, take away 8 squared, and square root the whole thing, then we get a value of 15. So then to do the area, we do 15 times by 24, and that gives us 360 centimeters squared. On the axes, sketch the curve y equals x cubed minus 2. Now the normal curve of y equals x cubed will look roughly like this, where it goes through the origin. If it's minus 2, that means it's just been shifted down 2 places, so ultimately looking like that. And because it says we must show the coordinates of the y-intercept, that is going to be 0, minus 2. Alternatively here, you could do an x and a y table and plot the points, for example, from 2 to minus 2, and it would give you the corresponding y values. But if you know your graphs, then this one's a fairly straightforward one. In a sport, injury time is added time played at the end of the match. Here we have a table showing the injury time played in 380 matches. Circle 2 words that describe the data. They are continuous and they are grouped. Because these are continuous ranges here, and it is grouped data. And 9b, which class interval contains the median? Now we know there's 380 matches, so if we do 380 plus 1, and then divide that answer by 2, then that means our median is at the 190.5th value, which is going to fall in this range here. So it's going to be the class of 2 to 4. What percentage of the matches had more than 6 minutes of injury time? So 6 minutes of injury time would be these two bottom categories here. So 45 plus 12 out of the total 380, and then times that by 100, gets us 15%. If x is an integer, and we have these two inequalities, work out all the possible values of x. So this one we can rewrite. If we take away 3 from both sides, we have 6, and we have minus 1. And we also know that x could be between 2 and minus 4. Now we know that actually, now at the top end, x actually has to be at most 2, and at the bottom end has to be at most minus 1. It can't go down to minus 4 because minus 1 is holding it back. So the values it can be minus 1, 0, 1, and 2. That is all the values. Joe and Kyle share an amount of money in the ratio 7 to n. Joe gets 35% of the money, work out n. So 35% equals 7, and Kyle must get 65% of the money. So if we work out 5%, that's going to be 1. So 65% is going to be equal to 13, so n is 13. A biased coin is thrown 250 times. The relative frequency of heads is worked out after every 50 throws. Circle the best estimate of the probability of heads. So the most accurate reading is going to come after 250 throws, so it's going to be 0.3. The amount spent on clothes by 40 boys and 40 girls in 1 month were recorded. The table shows information about the money spent by the boys. The mean for the girls was 35. Estimate the mean for the girls as a percentage of the mean for the boys. So ultimately we need to work out the mean for the boys first. So we want to put the midpoints in here, 10, 30, 50 and 70. We multiply these by each other, leaving us with 220, 270, 300 and 210. Now if we add all of those up, that equals 1,000, and if we do the sum of all our numbers divided by how many there are, that's going to give us 25. So estimate the mean for the girls as a percentage of the mean for the boys. So we would do 35 over 25 times by 100, because the girls spent more, so it's going to be over 100%, and that is going to be 140%. Ali and Mel are making 3-digit codes. The digit 0 is not used. Ali only uses odd digits and Mel only uses even digits. Ali can make X more codes than Mel. Assume the digits cannot be repeated, work out the value of x. So Ali has the option of 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9, whereas Mel only has the option of 2, 4, 6 and 8. Now if digits can't be repeated, for the first number Ali has 5 options, then 4 options, then 3 options. Mel has 4 options, 3 options and 2 options. And the way we work this out as the total combination is going to be multiplying those 3 numbers together. So Ali has a potential of 60 combinations, and Mel has the combination of 24 combinations. So 60 take away 24 is going to equal 36. In fact, digits can be repeated. What does this tell you about the actual value of x? So instead of 5 times 4 times 3, it's going to be 5 times 5 times 5, which is 124. And Mel will be 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64, in which case, as you can see, x is actually going to be a lot bigger. Here is line L and the graph y equals x minus 1. Work out the equation of line L. So what you can see from here is the y-intercept of this line is here, which means the y-axis has a normal scale, so this goes 1, 2, 3, which means the y-intercept of L must be 3, so y equals mx plus 3. All we have to do now is find the gradient, and we have completed this question. The gradient is the change in the y over the change in the x. Now something else that we have to notice is the gradient of this graph here is 1. So this actually means that the x-axis must be spaced of 2 squares per unit. So it would be 1, 2, 3 like this. Which means that the change in the y would be 3 from top to bottom, and the change in the x from here to here is 2. And because of the way it's going to be minus, so it's going to be y equals minus 3 over 2x plus 3. If you want me to explain that a bit better in the comments, I can do so, let me know. ABC and ACD are triangles. The area of ACD is 80.5 centimeters squared. Work out the area of ABC. So what I notice straight away here is we have a side and an angle. If we can work out this side here, then we are able to use the non-right angle trigonometry way of working out the area of a triangle. So because this is a right angle triangle, we know that 14 times by the height divided by 2 is equal to 80.5, which means that 14x is equal to 161. So x must equal 11.5. So this height here is 11.5. Now, if we do half AB sin C, where A is 19 and B is 11.5, and our angle C is the 36, we can do half lots of 19 times 11.5 times sin or sine of 36. And this is a calculator paper, so if we pop it into the calculator, we get a value of 64.2 to 3 significant figures. And that will be centimeters squared, even though it already gives you it. So question 17, lower and upper bounds when we have a calculation involved. So for the lower bound of M, we're going to want the lower bound of P and the upper bound of B. Now the lower bound for P is going to be 68.25 because it's to one decimal place, and the upper bound for B is going to be 8.75. So if we do 68.25 minus 2 lots of 8.75 divided by 2, then we will get our answer for the lower bound of M. And that gives us a value of 25.375. In a bag there are blue, green and white discs. There are 4 times as many blue discs as green discs. The number of blue to the number of white is 3 to 5. And if there's 4 times as many blue to green, then blue to green is going to be 4 to 1. One disc is selected at random. Work out the probability that the disc is either blue or white. So what we want to do here is combine these two ratios into one. Because blue is our common factor, I suppose, we'd put blue in the middle, white to the right and green to the left. Doesn't matter what order that is. But to get the blues the same, we can make them both 12, for example, which is going to involve multiplying the left one by 3 and the right one by 4. So blue is 12, white is 20 and green is 3. So from here, the total of them all is going to be 35. So that's going to be the bottom of our fraction as a probability. And because we're after blue to white, that is going to be 32 out of 35. Work out the area of the trapezium. So what we can do here to work out the height is create a right angle triangle like this. And if this is 11, then we know this one has to be 4 to make it up to 15. And we want to work out this length here, which will be our height. Because, as we know, a plus b over 2 times the height is going to be the area of the trapezium. So what we have here is the adjacent and the opposite, so it's going to be TOA, which involves tan of 64 equals the opposite x over 4. So 4 lots of tan 64 is equal to our height. So what we can do, just to make our answer as accurate as possible, is keep that as it is at the moment. And if we do our a plus b, 11 plus 15, divide that by 2, times by the 4 tan 64. And if I put all of that in the calculator, then we get a value of 106.6 centimeters squared. And on to question 20. Expressions for consecutive triangular numbers are n plus 1 over 2 and n plus 1 n plus 2 over 2. Prove that the sum of two consecutive triangular numbers is always a square number. So the sum basically means we add them. So our common denominator is already just 2, so we can write it just like this. N plus 1, n plus 2, all over 2. And always think with these proofs, just what can I do next? Don't necessarily worry about the final goal just yet. The only thing we really can do here is just expand and simplify. So that's what we're going to do. N squared plus n, and n squared plus 3n plus 2. Still all over 2. Now if we combine the top ones, simplify all the expressions, we have 2n squared plus 4n plus 2 over 2. And we can divide all of these by 2. So they become n squared plus 2n plus 1. Now we need to try and get to a square number. So something squared as our final expression. What you'll notice here, if we try and factorise it, we can have n plus 1 squared. Now whatever n is, we are squaring the expression, so it's going to have to be a square number. And that is simply how you would do it. You'd normally finish with a little sentence like that, just to show that you understand it. Question 21. Solid is made by joining two cones. Each cone has the same radius. So because we need to use the curved surface area, it's going to be number 1 add number 2 makes 57.8 pi. We also know that the slant height, which is L, is 2 lots of the radius. So for number 1, it's going to be 2r, and for number 2, it's going to equal 3r. So what we can actually do is write pi times radius times 2r plus pi times radius times 3r equals 57.8 pi. So altogether, we're going to have 2r squared pi plus 3r squared pi is equal to 57.8 pi. Adding those together, we have 5r squared. And also, if we cancel the pi's, that makes our life a bit easier. 57.8. So r squared, if we divide that by 5, we have 11.56. So the radius is going to be 3.4 centimetres. On to question 22. Show that this expands and simplifies to an integer. So one thing we could do here is expand and simplify. However, as some of you may have seen, root 12 can be simplified to root 4 root 3, which is the same as 2 root 3. So inside the bracket, rather than having 5 root 3 minus root 12 squared, we can have 5 root 3 minus 2 root 3 squared. Now 5 root 3 take away 2 root 3 is 3 root 3 squared. So that's the same as 3 root 3 times 3 root 3, which is going to equal 27. A and B are similar cuboids. Surface area of A to the surface area of B is 16 to 25. So because this is area, 16 to 25 can be square rooted to get our true scale factor, and then we cube both of those to get the volume ratios, which is going to be 64 to 125. Here is a sketch of this curve. Work out the values for which x squared plus 4x minus 12 is less than 0. So that is going to be this range right here. Now we want to work out the roots, which will be these values here. So if we set this equal to 0, we can factorise this, and we're going to have positive 6 minus 2 equal to 0. So the x values are going to be 2 and minus 6. So this is 2, this is minus 6. So basically x is going to have to be less than 2, but greater than minus 6, as one single interval. A sample of 50 eggs is taken from farm A. Here we have them in a frequency table. And here we have sample from farm B. So 2 separate farms here. For medium eggs for 53 to 63 grams, we need to work out how many more eggs farm A has than farm B has. So 53 to 63 is going to be 8 plus 19, which is 27 eggs for farm A. Farm B, from 53 to 63 is going to be whatever area this takes up here. So we know that this whole bar here is going to be 5 multiplied by 1, which is 5. So ultimately 5 eggs in the range of 50 to 55. So because this area is technically 2/5 of that area, it's going to be 2 eggs in that space there. If the class width is 10, we're only interested in 8 of them. So our width is going to be 8 multiplied by 2 technically. So 8 times 2 is equal to 16. Now 16 add 2 will be our total, which is equal to 18. So if we go back to our workings, we have 27 minus 18, which is equal to 9 eggs. On to question 26. Work out the values of the integers a, b, and c. Now straight away, the final value here is minus 30. So 5 times 2 times a has to be minus 30. We know that 5 times 2 is equal to 10. So 10 multiplied by a equals minus 30. So a has to be minus 3. So what that means is we can now expand our brackets. X plus 5, x plus 2, x minus 3. Now if we expand all that out, we will first of all get this. And then if we expand out one more time, we will get this. And then when we simplify, we will finish with this. So b is the coefficient of the x squared, so 4. And c is the coefficient of the x, so minus 11. So our final question, question 27, f of x equals 2x over 5 minus 1. they've asked us to do the inverse of f and sub in 3. So first of all, we need to find the inverse of f. So we want to set f of x equal to y, 2x over 5 minus 1, and we want to rearrange this so that we can get x as the subject. So if we add 1 and then multiply that by 5, that's going to be equal to 2x, and then all we need to do from there is divide that by 2 to get our x value. F to the minus 1 of x is going to be exactly this, but with an x instead of the y. So 5 lots of x plus 1 over 2. Now, f to the minus 1 of 3, when we sub 3 into here, we're going to have 3 add 1, which is 4, times that by 5, divide that by 2, we get 10. We also have to do normal f and sub in minus a half. So if we sub in minus a half up here, 2 times minus a half is minus 1, which is minus 1/5, minus 1, which is minus 6 over 5, or minus 1.2. So the true value of this is going to be 10 minus 1.2, which is 8.8. And that sums up the entire paper. Thank you very much for watching. If you got this far in the exam, let me know how you got on and what grade you think you would have got. And good luck in your GCSEs.